Hello, today is Wednesday, October 1. It is the first day of fiscal year 2026, people, and your government is shut down. But Fault Lines is not. Welcome to episode 508 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. I'm NSI Advisory Board member Lester Munson. I'm joined today by NSI's founder and executive director, Jamil Jaffer, deputy executive director Martha Miller, and fellow Jessica Jones. If anyone's getting promoted here, it's Jones to senior fellow. Today, folks, we are going to talk about the brand new and amazing Gaza peace plan announced by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu in the White House earlier this week. It is similar to previous peace plans. It involves Hamas promising to release all hostages, alive and dead, in the first, I believe it's 48 to 72 hours of the deal. It has the support of Arab countries. It has notably the support of Qatar, which has been facilitating discussions with Hamas. It has the support of Turkey, which has been skeptical of Israel for a couple of decades now. So there seems to be perhaps a change in aspect in the mood around the possibility of a peace agreement here. There are 21 points. That is a multiple of 7, just like Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Someone pointed out in our pre-talk that he won the Nobel Peace Prize for having a 14-point plan. Can Donald Trump win the Nobel Peace Prize for a 21-point plan? We may know by the end of this week. Jones, I'm going to go to you. I'm going to give you a chance for a trophy run here. Let's get you promoted to senior fellow. What's your take?
That's a lot of pressure. One response for promotion. I think, like you said, Les, we're seeing a different kind of reaction, a welcome reaction. We're almost at 2 years of conflict. This is much different pitch than kind of the Gaza Riviera that we saw earlier this year. There's no, AI generated video, glossy images that seemed a little kind of fantasy, right? This is realistic. It's focused on the ground, ceasefire, hostage, prisoner trade. Humanitarian aid is mentioned, which has been, an ongoing kind of headline making issue when it comes to the conflict. It's focused on the future governance, right? That's something that hasn't gotten as much attention. And I think what's really interesting about this announcement is also, speaking of the Nobel Peace Prize, you have actually President Trump at the center of this deal, not only making this deal, announcing it, and with the Oval Office kind of meeting yesterday, but also he's the chairman of the Board of Peace, which will be overseeing this technocratic committee that will be involved overseeing governance of Gaza. And so he has put himself, his political capital, himself at the center of the future of Gaza, and he's got another 3.5 years in his term. So that's he's taking it very seriously, and he's staking that it goes well. And so I think that's a big change. Obviously, the timing, we saw the strikes in Doha a couple of weeks ago. You might have some pressure when it comes to Arab leaders thinking about the willingness of Israel to go after its enemies and terror. And I'm not sure, it's as important in the calculus for Bibi, but there's obviously kind of a growing isolation. You saw the walkout at the UN when Bibi did his address. You see European countries moving towards recognizing a Palestinian state. So there, the timing, this is, 2 years, this is a welcome announcement. Of course, there's a lot, 21 points. There's a lot to be discussed, and possibly, when it comes to actually executing, implementing, we obviously don't know what Hamas is going to do, whether it's accept, reject, or try to negotiate at the table. But President Trump loves his deals. So this actually looks like it might have some legs.
Martha Miller, is this plan going to work?
Whether it'll work or not, I think no one can make an actual prediction on that. However, I will say it is a brilliant plan because, I guess it depends on how you determine what the meaning of working means. So I think this puts tremendous, puts it all on Hamas, right? So Hamas and people who have supported the cause of the people living in Gaza have been pushing for peace. But, I think in reality, we all know that Hamas does not ever want to give up power or control of the Palestinian people, even though they, terribly abused the Palestinian people almost as badly as they have abused Israelis. So, I think what's brilliant about this is it really puts the onus on Hamas. Are they going to accept it or not? And If they don't accept it, it essentially gives carte blanche to Netanyahu and his leader, his government, to pursue Hamas in any way they feel fit with American support. You said that's a pretty tremendous level of threat right there. So it's almost like a total surrender, at least close to it. Will Hamas be willing to do it? Do they have the mindset to agree to a total surrender of sorts? That is highly doubtful. So I think in a way the Trump administration can't lose with this, and I think in a way neither can Israel. I think that, the brilliance is the fact that I think this is a win no matter what happens for the Trump administration.
Jamil Jaffer, are we looking at renewed war in Gaza, or are we looking at, as Martha said, kind of a surrender here by Hamas and the peace plan being implemented?
Well, look, Les, I think there's a possibility that we get to a deal here, but I don't think there's anything particularly new or brilliant about this deal. It's the same deal that's been on the table since day one. It's Hamas gives up power and gives up its weapons. Israel withdraws, it engages in a ceasefire at first and a staged withdrawal, and the hostages get handed over. Like, there's not a single thing new here except for this like vaunted new authority that like the PA will have a seat, Tony Blair might run it, Donald Trump will be on the board. I mean, the one big thing that's changed in the overall dynamic is now President Trump's not calling for the expulsion of Gazans, but I mean that was never real anyways. That was just a made up thing in order to sort of give you something to walk back from. There's nothing new in this deal at all. I do think because the U.S. has announced it and President Trump is backing it, and he's really putting both Hamas and Netanyahu's feet to the fire. I do think you have a chance of getting a deal, but not because it's some brilliant, amazing, genius plan that Donald Trump came up with. It's the plan that's been the plan from day one, and it's the plan that the Israelis want, and Hamas is going to have to deal with because they're losing a bloodbath of war because they picked a fight with somebody they can't win against.
I'd like to respond to that actually, because I think that what has shifted though is more on the lines of political support for this sort of deal. Just a few weeks ago, Qatar was hosting Hamas leadership. Israel then went after those leaders on Qatar's soil, and I think what's interesting is this is a plan that people have actually more openly agreed to and endorsed, whereas before it was sort of an unspoken situation. And I think, what might be interesting is, where will Hamas go? Like, are they going to live in hotels in neighboring countries, Arab countries, or while the Arabs, Arab states have a force there on the ground in Gaza to, implement a peace plan and rebuilding? Who knows?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, look, it's got broader support, but I don't think that's because the plan's any more brilliant. It's just because Donald Trump came out and said, we're doing a deal and here's how it's going to go.
All right, lightning round. Does Donald Trump get the Nobel Peace Prize? Jones?
If this deal gets accepted or just right
yes
now?
or no, does he get the Nobel Peace Prize for this?
For this?
Martha?
No, the Europeans will never go for it.
Jamil?
No.
Yes, he does. All right, you all three are wrong. Donald Trump will get the Nobel Peace Prize. If nothing else, the Europeans will give it to him to get him to shut up. Now, it is possible that doesn't work, and they have to give him 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. That way he'll have more than Barack Obama. Okay, folks, that is a wrap. Thanks always to Kelly Crowley, Taylor Wayne, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for the help in producing today's episode. Join us on Friday, October 3rd, for another episode of Fault Lines. Will the government be open? We will know then. The National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. We're now on YouTube. Check out our channel for a video of today's episode. If you like what you heard or saw, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.